Good morning and hello, my beautiful souls. Welcome to the Earth and Sky channel. I'm so glad to have you come back again this week. I was feeling like talking a little bit about the difference between the messenger and the message. Sometimes I think those can get confused a little bit. I've had several people, many people over the years that came to me, but several recently, it seems, that are feeling a bit disillusioned by their teachers. Sometimes it's a specific teacher. Sometimes for people it might feel like a cascade of multiple teachers that they feel disillusioned by. And that can feel very disheartening. Sometimes when we find someone and we feel that they are our mentor, we can get very excited and we get kind of caught in a lot of emotions with it. We value their input. We put a lot of weight on that within ourselves and our own growth. But it's so important to remember that when you are studying something, when you are working to better yourself, when you are working on leveling up and being the best human and soul that you possibly can be, in whatever methods you're doing that, the work that you're doing, that is yours. The information that you take in for yourself and what feels true to you, that is yours. Sometimes it can be hard because when we meet someone, maybe there's somebody that you've really admired for a long time. I've experienced this myself a couple times where I had known people that I felt I really admired, and then meeting them in person, it might feel like a little bit of a letdown. Maybe they don't meet all of the expectations that you thought they would. Or maybe you just see their humanness, because no matter who the teacher is or what their beliefs are or their experiences, we are all humans. We are all in this together trying to navigate, and we are all on our own paths as well. Sometimes I think people will put the path of a teacher on a pedestal in a way and feel like, oh, they must know everything. They must have all the answers and insight, and surely they do everything right. That is not true of any teacher. We all have our own path. We all stumble at different times, and we try to hopefully to always do the best to give ourselves grace and get back up and learn from the mistakes that we have and give each other grace as well. As I was thinking about this, because there have been a number of people coming to me lately that have just felt very, almost as though they're questioning things within themselves because they are feeling at a loss with the disconnect that they had with their teacher. And there are a few things, I've written down about 5 different things of ways that people sometimes feel disillusioned by the teacher. And I want to bring you around after that into knowing how to not be disillusioned by the messenger and to keep the message. And so sometimes with a teacher, some of them will occasionally change their belief system. I've seen this a few times. I know Doreen Virtue was one that a lot of people have talked about when she had shifted from her metaphysical belief system and a lot that she had authored about the angels and shifted to a different religion. And a lot of her followers started to feel as though they were left out in the cold, or they started to question their own beliefs. And I've seen this with other teachers as well, where students will come to me and they feel like because the teacher that they looked up to as their mentor changed their belief system in whatever way it was, they start to question their own belief system. And they start to question if what they learned from that teacher really was truth, or does it really matter, or how does it impact them if the teacher changes. And I want to really reassure you that you are your own person. And when we learn from someone else, I feel like we are all students and teachers in different ways in our life. And when we are able to learn from another person, whatever happens in their life, whether they make some big mistakes and their humanness shows, or maybe they completely change their belief system after teaching for years and years in a certain methodology, that does not change the wisdom. That does not change the information. That does not mean that it is any less meaningful to you. It is your belief system. is what you should place the value on for yourself. I think that it is very valuable to study many different things, because the more things we study and understand, the greater understanding we have for everyone out there, and the greater understanding we have for how all of these beautiful systems actually work together and what the many similarities are in what we do. So if you have had that experience where you feel you learned something from someone, but you maybe placed that a certain weight on it being the teacher, not just the knowledge and the wisdom or the practices you learned, it is okay to take that weight back and to place the priority on the knowledge and what it means to you. In that same way, sometimes there may be a teacher that you study with that you agree with many, many different things, and yet there's something that they pull out that is very vastly different than something that you believe, or it just doesn't make any sense to you, or it just feels very foreign. That is okay too. It doesn't mean that you can't enjoy and continue to enjoy all the wisdom of what resonates for you and let go of the rest. You don't have to take on all of their beliefs, practices, and thoughts. This life is about making it for you. What resonates for you? What fits for your soul, your life here in this place? It is not a one-size-fits-all. If it was supposed to be that, we would all be the same all the time, and it might be a little bit boring because we wouldn't have any different views or ways to reflect on what we think and what we feel. So know that you can, whenever you're at a talk or a class or anyone that you're listening and talking with in conversation even, take what fits for you and leave the rest. You don't have to own all of it, and you don't have to let go of all of it just because there's one thing that seems a bit different. I think that is one of the things we see with a lot of different religions, where we have so many different factions of religions that oftentimes really are talking about something very, very similar, but there are just little differences. And so sometimes they fight or feel conflict because of that. That happens in relationships as well. Sometimes you may feel like you're all on the same page and you're really excited about this, and then you find out something where that person is different. Or maybe multiple people on a committee or in a friend group that you're in have a different belief in one area. That doesn't mean you have to be conflicted with each other. It doesn't mean you can't be friends anymore. It doesn't mean you can't look up to your mentors still. It means you can let go of what doesn't fit for you and know that that's okay. And know that it's okay to disagree with certain things and to keep and to cherish those things that do fit for you. Sometimes people will feel like someone that they meet doesn't live up to the standard that you expected. And this is where I love the phrase my husband had told me. I had found this myself when I met a couple different people that I had really looked up to. I was so excited to meet these people that I just assumed had a certain presence and a certain energy, and I just had all these assumptions without having personally met with them, and it really didn't meet the expectations that I had. Does that mean their knowledge and their wisdom is worth any less? Not at all. It just means that it didn't live up to what I thought it would be. It doesn't take down or diminish their value in any way whatsoever. But what my husband says as a saying is that you should never meet your heroes. And I felt like that was such a good one at times, because sometimes we will have these ideas and this anticipation and excitement, and we will prioritize that wisdom when we feel like they are kind of on this pedestal at times. And then we meet them and discover they're human, just like us, and just like everyone that is here on this planet. And instead of feeling like that's a letdown, think of it as an invitation, an ability to join in with that group that is humanity, to recognize how unique and different all of us are. Some soft-spoken, some very vivacious and gregarious, some may be a bit timid and not wanting to give a lot of information, while others will just tell you everything they know, exactly what they think, and all the time. That is a beautiful melody, really, that we have in humanity. So many personalities, so many paths, so many ways that we can learn from each other, even when we disagree and even when we may feel a little bit disappointed. It's always a good idea to be cautious of having someone too high on a pedestal, because when we put them on the pedestal, that places them in a position where they can fall. And oftentimes they might not be putting themselves on that pedestal. It's actually us doing that. And we need to recognize that we are all in this beautiful circle of humanity together. The other thing sometimes is that being disappointed in their humanness, maybe you find it might be something simple. Maybe you go out to eat with somebody that you've loved listening to, and you find they just are chewing with their mouth open and talking without being aware that there is food there, and it might feel a little bit appalling or unsettling. And so recognizing that we all have these different things that are surprising sometimes, and we might not be aware even of the things that we do. I think for every single one of us that might get a little annoyed with some behaviors or habits, guess what? There's someone annoyed at us for something that we do as well. And that is part of our shared humanity, part of that humanness that we have. Sometimes we feel like if somebody is a mentor or a teacher, then they should have all the answers and they should never, ever be wrong. But that is humanness. Sometimes we're going to be wrong. Sometimes we might even have an answer that was right at the time, but not right anymore. And maybe it's still right for someone else, but it's not right for you anymore. Or maybe it's still right for you and it's not right for the teacher anymore. Life is this beautiful evolution of ebb and flow. We are all on different paths, learning and growing. And if we can experience that and cherish each other, love our humanity with one another, and give ourselves grace to have some room for growth and grace to know that we have our own ebb and flow, as does everyone, bringing some compassion and empathy to that. One of the other things sometimes I've heard is where someone gets very hurt because a mentor is very condescending to them, or maybe arguing or belittling. I don't feel like there is ever really a place for that personally in that relationship, but know that if that happens, it is not about you. If you find yourself on the receiving end of that and your mentor has told you that they don't think you have what it takes, or that you are not good enough, or any type of message that is condescending, any message that takes away from you knowing that they see the inherent divinity in you and they see that you are an incredible person and that you have all the same abilities that they do, that it's all part of our different journeys growing together. If they are doing anything different than that, know that it is not about you when they are condescending. It is not about you when they are argumentative. It is not about you if they are putting you down while lifting themselves up. That is purely ego. That is part of their own path that they are learning from. It is not something that is okay necessarily, in my opinion, but it also doesn't discredit the things that you shared in the good times with that mentor. Maybe it's time to switch and go to another teacher at that point. You need to listen to your own guidance with that and know that even as you do, maybe you've outgrown one teacher and you're ready to grow into the next. We accept that so easily with K through 12, where we have a teacher, we outgrow them, we go to the next. That's not often talked about enough in spiritual communities, where it is okay to know that you may learn to a certain point with one, and it is okay to be so grateful for what you learned and know when it is time to move on to a different one. And honor that within yourself, and know that any behavior that makes you feel less than beautiful, less than special, less than divine creation, that is not about you. That is ego or some other thing that has entered into the path, and it does not diminish that light of who you are. Sometimes a mentor, this was another one that I've heard, is where a mentor will evolve in a way that maybe the students don't understand. This is something where sometimes we've seen as an example with Reiki. There are hundreds of lineages of Reiki. All of them focus on one thing and the base of it, which is healing energy, helping to bring balance to the mind and the body. Perhaps more on the mind for some, more on the body for others, but it's about healing. It's finding balance. And there are hundreds of ways to get there, not even including all the hundreds of lineages of Reiki. There are many paths for that. Sometimes I've seen where people will get upset a bit because they see that the lineage of Reiki maybe that they studied with one teacher, perhaps that teacher has evolved and grown and is also studying or shifts and begins teaching a different lineage of Reiki. Know that that too does not diminish the value and how beautiful and wonderful the Reiki is that you started with. And it does not diminish or devalue what you learned from each other. It then is about following your heart. Where do you feel guided to go next? Do you feel guided to try something new? Do you feel guided to go somewhere else? Or do you feel guided to keep doing what you're doing? There are no clear-cut answers that are one size fits all for everyone of it has to be this way or that's it. Or this is right and that is wrong. Or this is more right and that is less right. It doesn't work that way. We are all beautiful, unique souls that have so many incredible paths to wisdom. So instead of stressing or fighting or feeling sad about the differences that may have evolved or grown or changed with your mentor or your teacher and yourself or any person in your life, a friend group or community group or whatever it is. Know that differences happen because we are, hopefully, all of us are growing, changing, and learning, which means as we do that, we're not all growing exactly the same way all the time. We may be doing kind of that ebb and flow and going in different directions. So sometimes we'll feel very close with a certain teaching, and other times we will recognize that's not for me anymore, but maybe this is. But it's okay that that is the right one for you still. Listen to your heart. Be open to the whispers of the universe and where you feel guided. Allow yourself to open your heart to a mentor that you trust. Allow yourself to open your heart to studying, to knowing, to listening to the wisdom within, as well as trusting where do you find joy? Who are you around that sparks joy in your soul? Who are you around that makes you smile, that makes you think, that makes you want to be a better person? Those are good ones to hold on to. Those are good ones to ride that wave with. And those are still good ones to make sure you're not putting the pinnacle of importance on the teacher. Because the path is yours. And where the important intrinsic value is what are you doing with it? What are you learning with it? How are you growing with it? How do you make it yours? Anything that you learn from another teacher, you can always make yours as well. I think sometimes that becomes missed as a point, and people will feel like I have to follow exactly to the letter, exactly what it is, and do it just so. And that is a path of saying, you have evolved to a point that I can't understand. Instead, it's about, let me try it, maybe learn it exactly as it's taught. As you work with it a bit, see how it evolves in your soul. Build your foundation first as you're taught, and give yourself the freedom then to let it evolve. Make it yours. Enjoy it, trust it, have fun with it, and play with it. Know that teachers do come and go. And the wisdom is what remains. The wisdom you've allowed into your heart. The wisdom that you have brought in through work you've applied to your soul. That is eternal. That is what continues with us through the journey of our soul, through this life, through other lives. That journey of the soul, it's that wisdom and what we bring in to be ours. Sometimes giving grace to others is really important, as well as giving grace to ourselves as well. I think sometimes when people are very hard on someone else, it might really not even be about that person. It might be, are you being hard on yourself? And sometimes we will displace that and start to get really angry or upset with other people when who we're really upset with is ourselves. So it's good to look within and ask, do I need to give some grace to myself and allow myself some flexibility to discover what is right for me? Do I need to give some grace to this other person that I maybe had set on a pedestal in a certain way and I didn't feel they lived up to the expectations I had hoped or they had changed? Giving grace is something that can really become a beautiful part of making your journey in this life a much happier one, because when we give that light of grace, we're able to let go of the animosity, the frustration, the guilt, the worry, all those heavier feelings. We can let that go. A lot of times I will walk people through a meditative experience or a shamanic journey, and lately I've been finding I've been taking a lot of people to, I call it Mary's Garden, and there's a beautiful tree there that is a tree that contains a special light that has the light of grace, and as people lay down under it, this beautiful light washes through, and it brings such a sense of freedom, such a sense of peace to the soul, that those things that had seemed so important, those anxiety, those energies where someone felt like they just couldn't let go of something, they're able to let that go in that experience with the light of grace. That's something you can work with on your own as well. I will see if we can maybe record a video with that at some point soon with the light of grace. If that's something you're interested in, let us know in the comments and we'll share that out on YouTube as well. But bringing that into yourself frees you up. And when you learn to fall in love with yourself and you learn to really let yourself trust yourself, it really brings such a greater joy into all the relationships that you have in this life. When we see the inherent divinity in every person, we start to recognize what I say to you, I'm saying to myself. What I do to you, I'm doing to myself, because we are all one with one another. When we see that inherent divinity in others, we see that in ourselves as well. It works both ways. So work on working with that within yourself. And the last thing I want to mention is to take the message home, not the messenger. Because people, as I mentioned, we all are human. We all have that ebb and flow. And to know that the message, the lesson, the wisdom that you bring in, that is what comes into your heart. That is what fuels your soul. And yes, it is wonderful when we have those relationships that we can treasure and trust, and somebody that we can grow with over many years, or some of my students have been with me for decades now, and being able to have that experience. But no matter what happens, being able to know, however anyone's path changes, the message, the energy, the wisdom, that is always yours to keep in your heart as long as you want to. And whenever it no longer fits, let it go. Make it yours. Figure out what is right for you. I hope this helps if any of you have been experiencing this in your lives, whether it's a mentor relationship, teacher relationship, it might be a family relationship. Some of this wisdom will make sense for friend groups or community groups, so many different things. Take the message home into your heart and into your life, and leave the messenger when it doesn't seem to fit. We are really excited about so many classes that we have coming up at Earth and Sky Center. If you're interested in any of that, we do teach all over the world through our online classes, and when asked to attend, to come to another country, we are always happy to go do that, as well as other places in the U.S. So feel free to reach out to us. And I hope you have many people in your life that are inspiring you today, as well as remembering that you are a beacon of light, as we talked about last week, and you have the ability to inspire so many others as well. That is all for this week. Please remember to like and subscribe, share the video out, and we will see you next week. Our website is earthandskycenter.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.